This is not a banger. This is not a banger. And I know bangers. I know bangers.
The doctor is back in the office, and today we're going to be doing a full card breakdown and predictions of UFC Fight Night, Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. I mean, how blessed are we that the UFC gives us these back-to-back banger cards? You know, we had Steve Garcia versus David Onama last week in the Apex, and we get another Apex banger in Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. Shout out Jamaica Queens, Randy Brown. That's my guy. We are spoiled to have back-to-back card of the year candidates, and this is a banger. And I know bangers. I know what the intro is going to say. It's going to say this is not a banger, but I'm telling you it's going to be a banger. Starting off with the early prelims of Jackson Mckvey versus Zachary Reese. Now, people were saying this fight wasn't going to happen. Jackson Mckvey, he wasn't going to fight on this card because, you know, Robert Valentin, he was originally supposed to fight, who was that guy who got murked by a Teba Gautier a couple months back on the Poirier versus Holloway card. He pulls out due to injury. Then Dante Johnson, who just had that 6 submission win over Rodriguez Dumas last week, he was going to fill in, but then the Nevada State Athletic Commission was being gay and was like, we're not going to let you fight this week, kid. So now we're stuck with Zach Reese, who, remember, he fought Cedric Dumas a couple months back, had that nut shot that Cedric Dumas was being a bitch, and it was deemed a no contest or a draw, whatever it was. He's 3-2 in the UFC. McVeigh's 0-1. I think he used to be an LFA guy, and his only fight in the UFC got subbed by Bruno Ferreira. I don't really have much to say about this fight. I'm going to take Zachary Reese by first round finish, though. Jax McVey, listen, anytime you're a white dude rocking, you know, fucking cornrows like that, you really got to be a 1-on-1 dude. I don't think you're a 1-on-1 guy. 0-1 in the UFC. Zach Reese, I kind of know what he is. I know what he isn't. And I think he's gonna come in a little bit motivated after that fucking bullshit Cedric Dumas fight. So I'm gonna take Zach Reese by first round knockout. I know this channel, I've always said, you know, for me to take a guy by first round knockout, I got to be pretty confident. But Jackson McVey, cornrows on a white dude, very hit or miss. They're either the greatest thing ever or an absolutely terrible. Moving up the card, we go to Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos. A fun little bantamweight matchup we have here between two dudes who are decent names. You know what I mean? These aren't nobodies by any means. Miles Johns, I believe, is 6-4 in the UFC. He's on a 2-loss. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Daniel Marcos is 4-1 in the UFC, and he has split decision wins over Davey Grant and Adrian Yanez, I believe. And his only loss in the UFC is to Montel Jackson, who's legit. I think he lost that by decision. Miles Johns, he's had some close losses to Gene Masimoto and Felipe Lima, and I don't really particularly like how close he makes his fights. He would definitely lose to a Davey Grant or Adrian Yanez. And I don't think Daniel Marcos is too far off from being ranked. Obviously, Tapology has him at number 16. Not that Tapology's rankings really mean anything, but it just means in the grand scheme of things, he's not too far off from being a ranked guy. And when you're on a 2-fight losing streak like he is, I don't really have a ton of confidence in picking in you. Marcos is also a little bit longer. He has great knees up the middle. I also like the pressure that he can put on fighters when he fights. He's also more skilled on the feet. And I think I like him to throw more output in this fight and just do slightly more damage than Daniel Marcos. Than Miles Johns. I'm going to take Daniel Marcos by unanimous decision. Up the card, we go to our first women's fight of the card. Sia Pennington versus Denise Gomes. This is an easy fight. A little bit of a guruism here. Sometimes you just pick the woman who looks more like a man. Denise Gomes, I kind of think I used to work with a guy who look like Denise Gomes, and these are the number 13 and number 15 ranked strawweights in the UFC. It's a banger. This is the kind of fight that keeps you up at night. Denise Gomes is one of those dangerous lesbians. If you see her in an alley, she could kill you. She's on a 3-fight winning streak also, and Pennington's on a 2-fight win streak. And here's what I'll say about Sia Pennington. She's fought a murderer's row of badass women in the UFC. She's fought Weili Zhang, Mackenzie Dern, Tabitha Ritchie, Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas. So she's fought a ton of tough women. Gomes doesn't really have that kind of murderer's row lineup of women that she's faced as a strawweight, but she's slightly bigger. She has about a 2.5-inch reach advantage. And Pennington, she loses a lot of decisions. And when in doubt in women's MMA, most of these fights go by decision. Denise Gomes is the younger prospect. I like her. I think she's solid. She'll throw more output. She'll keep pressure on Pennington. I'll take her by a classic women's 29-28 decision. Up the card we go to Josh Hokit versus Max Gimenis. Max Gimenis, he's got a pretty deep Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu bag. These are two smaller heavyweights too. Josh Hokit, he's only about 6'1". Gimenis is 6 foot. Josh Hokit, if you remember, he was that guy who had that crazy interview after he got that finish in the second round on Dana White's Contender Series, where he was saying that he was going to beat up a bunch of pedophiles, transgenders in America, and rapists. He's the Kobe Covington of heavyweight. That's what I would describe him. He's also saying he wants to make the heavyweight division fun again. I don't know. Sure. Hokit, he does have good grappling. He can really put a nice pace on you because he's not that big of a heavyweight. He's only 236 pounds. So, he's not an incredible fat slob. And Gimenis, he hasn't really fought anybody. And I don't know, both these two dudes are smaller, but Gimenis is even smaller. I think I'm going to lean towards Josh Hokit with a second round finish. I think his pressure is going to be too much for Max Gimenis, who really doesn't have a ton of experience in terms of mixed martial arts fighting, despite being an IBJ, BBJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever the fuck it is, pro. I should know that. I think I'm going to go with a ground and pound finish for my guy, Josh Hokit, in this one. So we'll go second round, ground and pound finish. He probably first round I think's close. I'll lean Josh Hokit 10-9, and then he puts a good pace and pressure on him in that second round and lands a couple shots against the cage, finishes him on the ground round 2. And I also think another thing I'll say about Josh Hokit, they low-key wasted this dude in the Apex. Imagine getting a crowd behind this guy where he could say something crazy about a pedophile or a rapist or transgender. Seems like a wasted opportunity, but he's going to win this fight. We'll get some hype up on randoms in the heavyweight division. Up the card, we go to a women's bantamweight fight. Myra Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. She's Portuguese, so that doesn't really make any sense. Number 10 and 11 in the UFC bantamweight division. I think I'll take Cavalcanti. She's younger. Silva's on a 3-fight skid. And Calvacanti, she's on a really nice run in the UFC. She's 4-fight winning streak. She's won, I think, her last 8 fights or 6 fights, something like that. Silva, she got finished by Macy Chiasson and then lost the decision to Raquel Pennington during this span. And Silva, I'll say this. She can bully other women, but Calvacanti is a big bantamweight. She's 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. She's a large woman, and she's ready to fucking throw down and get scrappy. They don't call her the Nightmare for no reason. That's what I'll say about Jacqueline Calvacanti. I think this will be a classic 29-28 women's decision. Maybe Calvacanti can get a late finish in this one. She's just more rounded. She's stronger. She's also younger. And I think she's just going to pick her apart from range and win and be able to handle the pressure of Myra Bueno Silva. Up the card we go to Ricky Simón versus Raoni Barcellos. This is the UNC matchup. Two kind of gatekeepers. They've been ranked. They've had their moments in the UFC. Ricky Simón, more moments than Raoni Barcellos. What a matchup we have is kind of I'll say this about this card. This card does have some depth to it in terms of Ricky Simón versus Raoni Barcellos is a pretty solid matchup. And for that to be, not even the feature fight on the prelims of an Apex card, I don't think it's that bad. You know what I mean? These two dudes are also a nice little win streak. Raoni Barcellos, who's beaten Payne Talbot, Cody Garbrandt during this stretch. Ricky Simón, who the fuck is Ricky Simón? He knocked out one of the Basharat brothers. I think the one with the J, Jared. I don't even know if that's his name. I think Ricky Simón just slightly better, not just in this fight, but in the totality of his UFC career, even in his losses where he lost to, Song Yadong or Vichas Oliveira. Those are all younger prospects in the bantamweight division who are legit and are actually good. The thing about Raoni Barcellos is all these dudes he beats, like a Payne Talbot had no takedown defense. He got absolutely fucked in the grappling game. And then you look at a guy like Cody Garbrandt, one of his recent wins. Garbrandt is fully washed. He has nothing left in the tank in terms of fighting or really fucking anything. And that sucks. I like Cody Garbrandt. But I think Barcellos relies too much on his opponents kind of being fucking stupid and having glaring weaknesses in their game. And Ricky Simón's been around the block. He He's not gonna. He doesn't have any of those glaring holes that Barcellos could kind of take advantage of, and he's very well rounded. And people forget, man, this guy owns Merab. Ricky Simone, he owns Merab, man. I think I'm going to take Ricky Simone by finish. It hurts because I like Barcellos. You know, one of the goated gatekeepers. He's beat a couple of young prospects. But I'm going to take Ricky Simone by second round finish. I think this will be nasty as Ricky Simone. He's just not that fucking prospect. He's not going to get, you know, his weaknesses aren't going to get exposed by Barcellos. But whatever, I'm actually pretty excited for that fight. Moving up the card, we go to Jamal Emmers versus Amil. I've been very 50-50 on this matchup. Both these two dudes, I think, are decent. They're both kind of older, 36, 35. Emmers, the thing about Jamal Emmers is kind of anybody that he's good, that he's faced or a name he's lost to. And he's had decent performances. Like, he lost to Giga Chikadze by decision. Then I think he lost a split decision to Jack Jenkins. He got finished by Nate Landwehr, I think 2 fights ago. And then, fun fact about Jamal Emmers, he beat Corey Sandhagen in the LFA like 10 years ago. So, fun fact, Amil, he's 3-1. He finished. I think he lost his last fight to Jose Delgado, who just lost to Nathaniel Wood, and I rate Jose Delgado pretty highly. And then his wins before that, he beat William Gomes, and he beat Korean Zombie Jr. by finish. And you know, Zombie Jr., he's a name. I'll say that about him. And Jamal Emmers, again, he is tough. He fought hard in the Giga fight, the Giga Chikadze and Jack Jenkins. I'm very 50-50. I think a finish is coming either way. I don't like that Amil got finished in his last fight, and I think that could kind of impact your psyche and your thoughts, psychology coming into the fight. And I like that Jamal Emmers is coming off of a win and a finish in his last fight. So I think Emmers can kind of touch him up from range, land more meaningful shots. He's also a little bit bigger. He has a 4-inch reach advantage. And he has more experience in the UFC fighting against top-level dudes in the featherweight division. Not necessarily elite. Like, Giga Chikadze is pretty good. Jack Jenkins, he's decent. But you know what I mean? Like, he's fought legit names. So I'm going to take Jamal Emmers by second-round finish. Everybody knows I love a good second-round TKO. That's one of my favorites in this channel. Moving up to the main card opener, and this is a banger fight. This honestly should be the co-main, in my opinion. Marco Tulio versus Christian Leroy Duncan, CLD, England's finest versus Sao Paulo, Brazil's finest. This is a banger. I'm intrigued. Like, picking CLD is very intriguing to me because he is bigger and he has a ton of range. He's got really long arms. But I'm gonna stick with my gut and pick Marco Tulio. He's on a nice run in the UFC. He's 2-0. He's finished 4 straight opponents, and all within the first 2 rounds. He also beat Yusri Belguri, who just had that kind of really good performance. On the Allen versus RDR card against, what was it, Azamat Bakoev, where he really touched him up, and now that win is really aging well for Marco Tulio. He also had nasty finishes to go over Trayshawn Gore and Ihor Peteria. And listen, I'm not saying those guys are anything special, but they are names, and he really picked apart Trayshawn Gore in that fight. I know Gore absolutely sucks, but he absolutely styled him. It was kind of a beautiful performance. CLD, he's 5-2 in the UFC. He had that nasty finish over Eric Anders in the Apex. He also lost to RoboCop. I think that's one of his few losses as a professional. The thing about Christian Leroy Duncan is he kind of relies a lot on those crazy finishes, whether it's a fucking flying knee, spinning elbow, just some bullshit. That's what he kind of relies on. I feel like Tulio, he can kind of beat you in terms of technicality and just simpler finishes, if you know what I mean. I think he also has slightly more power and is just overall a more well-rounded fighter. I was leaning either late finish, but I think this is going to be like a third round barn burner where you just got guys fucking throwing meaty hooks. You know, it hurts to even see Lucas Tracy retire, but throwing meaty hooks, fucking just landing a ton of damage. Going to be a lot of blood in this fight. I think it's going to get ugly. Both dudes are going to have moments. They're going to have moments where they knock each other down. Maybe Christian Leroy Duncan has one where he lands some crazy knee up the middle or something, drops down Marco Tulio. Either way, I think both these two dudes are legit. Winner of this fight, I fully jump on the bandwagon for. This becomes my next guy in the middleweight division. If Marco Tulio wins this, he becomes a really serious prospect in the middleweight division, as does Christian Leroy Duncan. You look at it, I know they're, not fucking, babies or anything, young heads, or youngins, but they're still in their early 30s. So winner of this becomes a legit name in the middleweight division. Moving up to the first of the Bonfim fathers fighting on this card. Ishmael, I think it is Ishmael Bonfim versus Chris Padilla. Bonfim came in, 5 or 6 pounds overweight. That looks really bad. Chris Padilla, this guy's a gamer. He grits shit out. I lean Padilla in this fight even before I found out about the massive weight miss by him. Bonfim really has no hype. Neither of them do. Padilla, he has 2 finishes in the UFC. He also had that split decision over Jai Herbert, who's a big, tricky customer lightweight. Bonfim also lost his last fight to Nazim Salikhov, right, by doctor stoppage from a cut. And he also got finished by BSD before that. Had that crazy fucking finish over my guy Terrence McKinney, which sucks. But he has real no hype anymore. I've never was really into him anyway, sexually or in terms of being a fighter. Padilla, he's crafty. Again, he's gritty. I like Chris Padilla, Chris Taco Padilla. He can really kind of he's more well-rounded in the octagon. He can do a little bit of everything. I haven't really been encouraged by anything I've seen from Bonfim as of late. And he's just very whenever I watch him fight. And Chris Padilla, he's so much more versatile, as you hear a fucking train going off in my backyard. I'm going to go with Chris Padilla. I mean, goddamn, that thing is so fucking loud. Chris Padilla by unanimous decision. You guys are probably picking up on that in the background. They let the little train rant. These fucks. I mean, I get, you don't want people getting hit by a train, but it's absolutely ridiculous how much these dudes lay on the fucking horn. I don't know how often it gets picked up in my videos, but I'm going to go back and hear that. Just fucking ridiculous. Anyway, we'll go Chris Padilla by unanimous decision this fight. Just going to outclass Ishmael Bonfim. Moving up the card, we go to one of my favorite unks in the UFC, Muslim Salikhov versus Uros Medic. I like Uros Medic too. He's definitely solid, but Salikhov is a goated unk. They kind of fumbled. I guess it couldn't really have happened because Wonder Boy kind of broke his shin kicking Gabriel Bonfim, who we'll talk about later in the main event, in the head and blowing his shin up. But I wanted to see a real unk kind of karate fight between Salikhov versus Wonder Boy, but whatever. I'm going to go with Salikhov by finishing this fight. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He destroyed PD user Carlos Leal, who I've ranted about on this channel before. I told a bunch of people to take Carlos Leal over Muslim Salikhov, and Muslim Salikhov fucking slept him bad. He also beat, what is his name? Santiago Ponzinibbio. And he also has some fights against Randy Brown and Nicholas Dalby. Medic is just like, he loses to any real names he fights. He got finished by Punelli Soriano, finished by Oral By, and also got subbed by Jalen Turner, and those are all kind of names. His chin is kind of gone. He gets cracked way too easily now. Medic, I'll say he moves around well and has some nice kicks, but Salikhov is so slick on the feet. He can really beat you in so many different ways on the feet, and Uros Medic, he'll overcommit to his shots sometimes, and against a guy like Salikhov, who's just outside the rankings and really is a dangerous finisher on the feet, I could just see him putting him away really bad. He's going to shut Uros Medic's fucking lights out. The doctor, Uros Medic. So from one doctor to another, it hurts to pick against an Uros Medic. But Uros Medic, he's no Randy Brown and Nicholas Dalby. Like, you're not going to beat Salikhov unless you're a legit name at the welterweight division, or at least respectable. So I'm going to go Muslim Salikhov by second round finish. I'll give credit to Uros Medic. I think he'll move around well enough in that first round to kind of avoid being highlight reel KO'd, but you can only run so far from the fucking master of Kung Fu, Muslim Salikhov. Up the card we go. I mean, what a ridiculous main event co-main this is. Matt Schnell versus Joseph Morales. This is Joseph Morales, I think his second stint in the UFC. He fought like 10 years ago, I believe, and he got finished by Figgy early in his career. He's 1-2 in the UFC now. I'll say this about Joseph Morales. I like his story. He was on Tough. He beat that dude that one of DC's guys, Alibi Aldarius or something like that. He was from like Kazakhstan or somewhere over there, and subbed him with a triangle choke on the Hamzat versus DDP card back in August. And that's a DC guy. Obviously, DC, he talks about how great American wrestlers are, and then he fucking scouts out these Dagestani Caucasus guys over fucking in Russia. But whatever, that's besides the point. Joseph Morales, he has good wrestling. He has good takedown defense. He's a better striker than Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell's chin, that chin is cooked. His chin is fucking gone. He's been around for forever. And, you know, he won his last fight against Jimmy Flick, who's absolutely terrible, but got finished in 4 of his last 5 fights before that. Like, got finished by Steve Erceg, finished by Brandon Royval, finished by Cody Durden, also lost to Pantoja early in his career, and Rob Font. He just sucks now. Like, I can't believe this is a co-main. Like, there's better fights, like Salikhov versus Uros Medic, better fight. Fucking Tulio versus CLD. Like, even Ricky Simone versus Howney Barcellos, if they put that as the co-main, I would have been like, oh, okay. Even fucking Bonfim versus Chris Padilla is better. Like, I can't believe this is a fucking co-main. But it's Apex. We're getting all the Apex slop out. Next week, we'll be back with JDM versus Islam. We'll be safe because we're going to push out a lot of videos for that. We're going to go Joseph Morales by 2nd round finish. Now, moving on to our main event of the evening, and it doesn't get any better than this, Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. Before I even break down any of this fight, fuck you, Gabriel Bonfim. You are a bitch. There's people who are picking Gabriel Bonfim, and shit, I'm dying over here. They might be right. But I made a pact with myself. After that Wonderboy fight, I would never pick this dude. I'll never root for him in his life because he was getting pieced up on the feet by him and proceed to hold 80-year-old Stephen Thompson against the cage for an entire round, the entire 3rd round, won a ugly split decision, didn't prove anything to me. Randy Brown's going to put you out fucking bad. Also, Randy Brown, he's from Jamaica. He's from, I think, Jamaica, but then grew up in Queens. So that's my guy. I'll always ride with him. I think Gabriel Bonfim got finished by Nicholas Dobby, and none of his wins really impressed me. He did have a nice win over Chaos Williams, but then he also had that other fight against, what's his name, Uje Lusa, who's really nothing special. He subbed Trey Waters on the Contender Series, which is solid. I like Trey Waters, although, like, after he got destroyed by Sam Patterson, I'm a little bit less on him. But Randy Brown is just so much bigger. He's a lot tougher. I mean, he's 2 inches taller, and then I think he has like a 6-inch reach advantage. He's fought a lot of more legit names like the JDMs of the world, like the Salikhovs, like the Nicholas Dalbys. I think this guy also fought Bilal early in his career. So he's been around the block before. He's not some, he's not really washed, you know what I mean? Even though he's an older guy at 35. And his only real losses are to JDM and then lost against Brian Battle, the dirty boxing goat himself, when Brian Battle was a little bit more serious about his professional career and professional life. I think there is a world where Gabriel Bonfim just goes out here and grapple fucks him, hold up against the cage. But even Wonderboy stuffed a ton of takedowns, and Randy Brown at this point in his career is definitely better than Wonderboy, and Wonderboy was able to neutralize Gabriel Bonfim's grappling to a decent degree, and he's 100 years old and has been through so many wars. Obviously, I think Randy Brown has some more worrying losses early in his career when he got finished by guys like fucking Nico Price. But that was so long ago, it's like, why would I even take that into consideration? He's only improved as a fighter. I could see a world where this maybe does go to a decision and Gabriel Bonfim wins because they want to build this dude up as a prospect. But he's not even that exciting, so I don't really know what the point of building this guy up is. He's not like a fun personality, and he doesn't really do anything, super exciting within the octagon. And I think he needs a finish early if he wants to win. Obviously, could there be a robbery decision in play? Maybe. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I think just he needs something. He's going to need a submission or a ground and pound TKO within those first 2 rounds. And if it doesn't happen, I think Randy Brown's going to get better as the fight goes on. Not that this dude, I think, has any 5-round experience. I think he's fought 20 fights in the UFC, and this is his 21st. This is the longest it's ever been for a UFC fighter to get a main event in terms of fights put in. That's a fun fact. I'm pretty sure that's right. So Randy Brown, not a guy with a ton of 5-round experience, but he's been through a lot of 3-round wars. And I think he's just going to shut Gabriel Bonfim's lights out in the 3rd round and outclass him. He just has more experience against higher level competition. He's stronger. He's so much better on the feet. Gabriel Bonfim, you do nothing that impresses me. And I'll never pick for you to win. And I'm going to go with Randy Brown by 3rd round knockout. I think it's going to be a highlight knockout, and then Randy Brown's going to get a real push through the rankings. Maybe he fights a D-Rod or somebody else in the back half of those rankings. Maybe he fucking fights a Kevin Holland. I don't know. It's late. I'm just thinking of names that he could fight. That's it for this card, though. I actually think this card is honestly better than last week's in terms of there's a little bit more like depth, like not as many useless women's fights. Not being sexist, I love the women's fights, but like at least I remember there was like 3 of the first 4 fights were women. Now we have like at least some fights where like Jackson Mckvey versus Zach Reese, we should get a finish. Miles Johnson versus Daniel Marcos is an interesting fight. Then you have Hokit and Gimenis in that early prelims, and then Simone. Yeah, like even I think this card has decent balance. The real blemish on this card is I wish we had a better co-main. Like Matt Schnell sucks. Joseph Morales I like, but Matt Schnell is absolutely garbage. Whatever. We're moving on to better things as the month goes on. We're gonna have JDM versus Islam. Then after that we have Armin versus Dan Hooker. The main event could be worse for this card, and honestly, I think it's the main event could be worse. It's probably worse than the last one in terms of stakes, but whatever. We get to watch Gabriel Bonfim get sleep by Rude Boy Randy Brown. So shout out Jamaica Queens, shout out Randy Brown, shout out the channel, shout out Christine Hernandez, Fluffy's wife. She commented on the TikTok about, I did like a little TikTok about Fluffy versus Sean Strickland being a fight, and she said nothing's confirmed yet, so we got sources. Fluffy Hernandez is we're this close to getting a Fluffy interview, guys. So that's pretty cool. But that's besides the point. We're keep growing every day. These cards not particularly great, but whatever. I'm just happy that people watch, happy that people keep liking the content. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. That's it. The doctor is signing off.